Hello, everyone. How is everybody doing? Welcome back. We are very excited again to be back on Qween Exchange series, which is a LinkedIn live series where we exchange thoughts, ideas, and insights of experts across industries. And today we have a really interesting topic on how to build a successful career in fintech. I think that's a very relevant topic for us to discuss, especially for the women audience that we have across the Queen network. And we have none other than Kamalika Poddar, who's a renowned fintech product leader and also a LinkedIn top voice. She has, I think, about almost 70,000 followers on LinkedIn. So we are very excited, Kamalika, to have you here. And please share your introduction and a little bit about your journey.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, Neha. And thank you for everyone who's tuning in on a Saturday morning. I mean, I know it couldn't have been easy getting out of bed after those Friday night parties, but yes. So, a little bit about myself. I think I've been in the fintech space even before fintech was cool to be in. I started out as a developer on the core banking software side of things, and this was way back in 2012. And that was when branch banking was a thing in India. So people didn't even know what core banking was. So from there, went on to lead analytics team at a payment gateway, and now currently leading the product team for a very exciting fintech product called the account aggregator, which is all just set to kind of revolutionize the way we think and deal with finances. So that's about me professionally, but somewhere I realized that fintech or finance in general is not very accessible to people, and that's simply because there are some technical jargon, and if you don't understand it you lose context of the entire conversation. But I was like, you know what, these things have like an English nomenclature too that people can use. So I was like, let's see how this goes, and I started writing on LinkedIn. Actually, I started writing on LinkedIn like really, really long ago. I'm not even going to say when. That's going to reveal my age. But anyways, so yeah, and the reception to all of those, simplified, not dumbed down, just simplified, regular day language, financial and fintech content kind of resonated with people. So I was like, okay, this makes sense, and this is making sense to others also, and so yeah, why not do it? So I did it like I've been doing it constantly for the last 5 years now, and it's
Wow,
paid off. I've ended up being a LinkedIn top voice twice,
nice.
been a part of the first LinkedIn accelerator program in India. So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think that's the need of the hour to have like simplified way and means to understand what exactly it is about, right? Like even for Queen Network, like there are so many women who are wanting to do things in fintech, but there is probably they need that kind of a simplified way to understand and guidance. So I'm very excited, and I think. Let's start with few questions. We'll just do a Q&A session here and then open it up for discussion. Yeah.
Sure.
My first question, obviously, it's a very broad question, but what are the key skills and qualification that are really needed for a successful career in fintech industry? If you can just put some light on that.
Sure. So, I think the advantage of the fintech space is that it's extremely regulated. Now, why do I think that's an advantage? Because every time you want to come up with an innovative idea, you already have a guideline on how to go about doing it. Maybe the way you're implementing it is going to differ, but you have like a guideline. You have a skeleton on which you can add the muscles and the tissues and all of that and dress it up nicely. So that I think is one very, very big advantage. So to anyone who's starting out, the one place that you should always look for inspiration is the regulatory guidelines. And in India alone, we have like five regulators in the financial services world. So whichever domain that you are, if you're in insurance, then make sure that you are following what IRDAI comes up with. If you're in the payments and the credit or the traditional finance side of things, then RBI and NPCI should be a go-to repositories for figuring out what to do next. But there's also the technology side of things. So I think that is also something you should keep in mind. You don't have to really be tech, like you don't need to be coding all the time or deciphering how large language models work or something like that, but at least knowing what those are, rather than just at a superficial level knowing that okay, this does this, knowing what it is that it does at the back end also without getting too technical. I think that is something that you will have to develop the curiosity to understand and kind of decipher what that is, because unless you understand both of these worlds well,
Yeah.
mingling them up might not be that simple. So yeah.
If let's say if I am not from a finance or a tech background, then how does one break into this? And are there any ways or strategies in terms of how one can go about starting career in fintech?
Oh, absolutely. So, if you just, if let's assume that you're someone who's new to the entire world of finance and technology, understand nothing, and then just because Kamalika said we should go and look up what all the regulators are saying, you go through their publications, you're going to understand nothing. But then the advantage is that there are very good resources available that can help you decipher what is it that these regulators are saying. My go-to medium even today happens to be, and you will not believe it, but I know a lot of people keep dissing out newspapers, but yes, business newspapers play a huge role in making sense of what the regulators are saying. There are several nuances to it, and they help you understand in English or whatever is your language of choice. They help you understand that. So if you are really starting out, I would strongly recommend you start following the business newspapers that are out there. My favorite happens to be ET Prime and Mint, and both of them have like sections for where you can go and read up about finance, economics, and fintech. And like recently, I noticed that ETBFSI also has a fintech section under it. So yes, and the language is very simple for you to understand. They make sure that the jargon that they use is it's still there, but the good thing is they have hyperlinks to all of those. So yes, if you're reading it on your mobile or on the webs on your browser, it's easy for you to just look it up over there. If you want a more structured way of understanding this, then I would suggest going through Investopedia for people who are new to finance. And if you're new to technology and understanding of technology, then there is W3 Schools, which has like a very structured way of understanding what technology is, how you use it, when to use what, and stuff like that. Plus, there are a bunch of amazing YouTube channels as well. Like
Yeah.
for me personally, whenever I want to understand what is happening with lending companies, or what is happening with insurance companies, or how are they doing well, are they not doing well, my go-to channel happens to be Professor Ashwath Damodaran's YouTube channel. So there he really breaks it down in a way that makes everyone understand the logic behind the financial numbers. So I think that is something that people who are starting out can look to.
That's absolutely right. And also, like now, there are so many online courses as well that one can take up for introductory, I think, courses from on Coursera or Udemy or any other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's definitely something where we can stay updated with the latest trends, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
now that so much information is available online. However, if one wants to really network or meet like-minded individuals when they probably want to start up in fintech industry, what are the avenues and ways that they can do that?
Oh, I'm glad you asked this question, because a lot of people that whenever we think of networking, and I think this is a very COVID sort of a thing, but whenever we think networking, people automatically start thinking about LinkedIn. LinkedIn, yes, it's a great place to network, and there are like LinkedIn is focusing on lot on reviving the LinkedIn groups for professionals, especially. It is a great place to network, but I think an even better place are the offline events that are coming back up again. So there are a lot of industry events that are organized throughout the year. I know that there is next no oh sorry, this month, this is July, right? Sorry. But in July there is the Fintech festival that's going to be happening in Delhi. So if you are from Delhi, you should definitely try checking that out. And there are a lot of local regional conferences or conclaves that keep happening throughout the year. The next one that I'm looking forward to is going to be the one that NASCOM is hosting here in Chennai. So that's definitely an interesting. So just Google for all of these in-person industry conclaves. The reason is, and one of the biggest blasphemous mistakes I made was to end up in one of these conclaves without having a visiting card. So if you are attending any of these networking events, make sure you have a visiting card. What would also be a neat trick would be to have your LinkedIn QR code at the back. So even if you're running out of visiting cards, you can just tell them that, hey, okay, this is my LinkedIn QR code. Why don't you scan it and we can stay connected on LinkedIn? So that's, I think, one of the things that's really helped me. uh, One other thing that I think I generally take the effort of going over and above just attending it and trying to get or gather visiting cards from others. Another thing that I like doing is whenever someone is presenting on stage in these events, it's a great place for you to catch their attention. And I do that by making rigorous notes throughout the session, and whenever they open it up for audience questions, I almost always ask a question. And it so happened that a lot of the times the speakers come down and we continue that conversation, so they're able to remember me thereafter also. So yeah, I think that's like an amazing way to network.
I think those are really great tips. Definitely asking questions. I think if you want to really stand out, that's really something that one must do. And also, I'm going to myself use the QR code LinkedIn. I haven't been doing that, so definitely that might come handy to me myself. Now, in terms of, are there any like specific certifications or courses that can enhance one's, chances of succeeding in fintech field?
That's a very interesting question, and the reason is that I think fintech, especially on both fronts, in fact, on both the making finance accessible as well as on the technology front, it's rapidly changing every day. So even if you do like just giving context, I remember someone like I was trying to help someone out in figuring out they wanted to get into blockchain, and by the time we figured out a course for them and they finished it, like it was a 6 months course, I think a lot of the protocols that they had learned were already like old news by then. They'd already had like the ERC 437 and they had to keep relearning all of this. So when it comes to the fintech space, the good thing over there is that most of these innovative companies are open to publishing or at least making public their white papers. So if you really want to stay abreast of what's happening, if you're already in the space and you want to stay abreast, I think going through those white papers and building up on top of that is probably the best way. Now, even like at least in the West, a lot of traditional financial institutions too are coming up with their own Discord channels. So probably joining those, not everything, don't overwhelm yourself, but just joining a few of them and just staying like being a part of those conversations can be really, really helpful. Coming to India, again, I have like massive respect for our regulators because a lot of what they do, they build in public. NPCI was completely, UPI was completely built in public. A lot of what's currently happening with the open credit enablement network, it's community driven. Account aggregator, which is again a part that something that I'm a part of, again community driven, and regulators are open to having volunteers come and help them out. They're severely short staffed most of the time, severely underfunded most of the time. So they're open to having people come and volunteer with them. So if that is something that you would want to, kind of build up on, these volunteering programs are an amazing place to start.
Nice. I think that's something that everyone should check out in case if they are looking to, follow through these courses. Now, coming to careers, right? What are the career opportunities and potential in future in fintech? I think we would like to understand what's the larger picture and how one can actually go about their career for it.
Absolutely. I think one of the things with fintech is that you can also grow horizontally and not necessarily just vertically over there, because every couple of years something new is coming up over there. So that is like if you are someone who's interested in having that breadth of knowledge, that is also something you can do. And one of the best ways to have like a breadth of knowledge is to become a fintech project manager. So you're managing like a bunch of new projects, you're trying to figure out what's happening, liaising with the different stakeholders to understand where is what challenge lying and stuff like that. So that is definitely one very interesting, especially for people who love solving small puzzles all the time. That's the way that I like to see it. So project management is definitely one very key area over there. Marketing is something that previously wouldn't have thought of marketing and finance, or at least finance in the marketing space being such a very exciting space to be in. But with fintechs coming in, that has changed a lot. So I think if you are someone who's interested in marketing, then definitely, that is one career that at least for the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, is going to be doing really, really well, just given the number of new things that are coming in. So, marketer's job is not just to put the product forward to customers, but also telling them the advantages in a way that they understand. That is, I think, something very critical over there. You have to market, but in a layman's world, so that you don't alienate your end consumers from your product. That is one. Of course, talking about product teams are growing in fintechs as well. I think they're growing across industries. So yeah, let's. Another thing that I see a lot of growth happening currently is with technical writers in the fintech space. So if you're someone who understands technology but is not very comfortable in coding and stuff like that, but you can also write really well, then technical writers is a very demanding place to be in. Then some of the other things that I think are very crucial, simply because fintech happens to be such a regulated space, is in the operations, compliance, and regulatory space. Fintechs have been hiring a lot of people with a degree in law. So that's, and I know that you wouldn't probably think of lawyers sitting on a desk job, but yes, that's a lot of people with a degree in law are coming into fintech to help with understanding, deciphering the regulations, and keeping the company in check over there. Compliance as an area is getting, wouldn't say disrupted, but yes, it's getting like a total overhaul over there, and that's to do with technology. So if you're someone who's interested in technology, I would really recommend that you look out some of these compliance and regulatory technologies that are coming up nowadays. It's a very exciting space to be in and has huge potential for the next 10 years at least.
Nice.
Another area is AI in finance, and this is something that recently Google had come up with in a partnership with HSBC, where they'd run a program on their anti money laundering using completely just using AI, no human intervention. And they saw that the performance of their anti money laundering, the product that they had, performed like it was great numbers, almost 23% better than just humans and the usual checks and balances that they had. So I think that is also an amazing field, figuring out AI in finance.
Wow, there are just so many interesting avenues actually that you've shared. I hope our audience is taking notes and making sure that they pursue something which they are really keen to do. Now we know that the job market is very competitive, right? So while you understand and choose the career path that you may want to special, like for example in marketing or any other field in fintech, then how do you really stand out or differentiate yourself from the others, especially like trying to uh, beat yourself from the competition that you may have?
There's no short way of doing it. You'll have to put in the work and get to the details of it. Only if you're someone who's extremely depth focused, detail oriented, will you be able to differentiate yourself from all the others who are there. Like, just giving an example, everyone knows what BNPL does, but do you understand how to identify and underwrite each individual within that fraction of a second? If you can get into that level of details, that level of depth, then you definitely are leaps and bounds ahead of your competitors over there. So it's good to know what's happening across, but pick a few niche and start focusing in depth into those and become subject matter experts. I think in this age of AI, the only thing that we can use to differentiate ourselves is if we are subject matter experts. So yeah.
Totally. So I think we've pretty much covered all the questions. Now I wanted to just as we are coming close to wrap up, I just wanted to specifically address our women network, because that's the majority of the audience who would be looking at watching us here. So why do you think there are so less women in fintech, and how can we encourage them to pursue it further and get back to fintech basically?
I think this is like something very close to heart. And so, funny story, recently at work, we had this one of those, sort of not really icebreakers, but yes, one of those events that helps you to collaborate better with your team. So one of the activities we were made to do is to go around everyone and write one good quality of theirs on a piece of paper. While all the other girls, all the other women in my team, they received amazing compliments like, "Oh, she's so helpful, she's so empathetic, she goes the extra mile to make us feel welcomed." For me, most people wrote that I was good at math, and I was like slightly taken aback because I was like, am I that bad a person that these people had to pick a skill of mine like maths? And they were like, no, not really. It's just that we're not used to seeing women being so good with numbers. Like, you just have to take one look at the chart and be like, this is happening. Not like, and even men, not a lot of men also can do that. So the fact that you could do that and you're a woman, that kind of stood out for us. So I think we women have this kind of self-conscious thing that holds us back, that tells us that, we don't really understand finances that well, we don't really understand how to develop or how to write good quality code and stuff like that. Really, I think we are the ones holding ourselves back. I honestly, I have my parents to thank for that, because whenever I wanted to try something new, like I remember when I was a kid, I think I was in eighth or something, I said I want to learn football. And there were only two of us girls and the rest were all guys. And my parents said, fine, go for it. Go for the football camp, figure out if that is what you want to do. So don't let things hold you back just because you don't have precedence to show you that, yes, there are other women who've done this and done this well. Uh, Give it a try. I never really knew that I was good at math, as my colleagues so put it, until actually, the need came in for me to step in and start doing those number crunching for the team. So never, like, feel free to always keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. I think one thing that does happen is that traditionally the entire financial services sector has been male dominated. And so finding a woman that you, or why just a group, just even finding one particular woman on that, CXO role, it becomes often very challenging. And especially if it is like, for me, I think again I got lucky over there, because my first one of my first companies out of my MBA was Axis Bank. And at that point in time, it was Shikha Sharma at the helm, and she was an amazing, continues to be an amazing leader. So I had those real life challenge, those people that I could, those women that I could really look up to in real life. But if you look around you, you don't really have to have a women role model who's like, I was just a management trainee and she was the CXO. See, she was the CEO. You don't really have to have that big a role model. But even someone who's just 2 to 3 years above you in the career ladder, even they work. And in fact, I think they work better because they're more accessible to you. So you can actually go to them and ask them, what am I doing wrong? What should I be doing better? So yeah, don't let yourself hold you back.
Totally. I think you brought in a very interesting point where you said that when, in your own experience, you were identified for your math skills versus all the other women for soft skills, right? So I
Yeah.
recently saw a video as well where I think it was a Mahindra campaign, but
Oh
it was
yes.
more about how uh, kids were asked, like teenagers were asked on who would you go for finance advice or who would you go for like building an app, and all the answers were either a brother or a
Yeah.
father or some boss, which were not women. So why is that differentiation mindset? But I think the point being is that we need to identify ourselves more than just those soft skills, right? And showcase that out and about loud and be confident about it, and pursue what we need to, right? So um,
Absolutely.
yeah, with that, I think we are coming close to the session. Thank you so much. I will just ask one last question before we wrap up, about if there were just three tips or key takeaways for anyone who wants to pursue a career in fintech, what would those be?
Okay, just down to three, is it? All
Yes.
right. The first one would be to be aware of what the regulations say for you. You don't want to be caught in the crossfire of, regulators telling you this is not done. The second one would be to try identifying ways in which you can simplify the problem statement so that even your parents or even your grandparents can understand that. And the third one would be that be curious. Unless you're curious, unless you want to really know what's the next big thing, you're not really gonna. And this is across, I don't think it's just fintech related, but yes, across all domains. If you're not curious enough, if you don't have that burning need to know what's happening, it's hard to find yourself on the top.
Great. Thank you so much, Kamalika. And thanks for sharing all the insights and your valuable time. We really had a great session and we look
Me
forward to
too.
obviously being in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being such an amazing host, Neha. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye bye.